Damn, that's still a hell of a bummer. It's still pretty rough. All right. Onward. Right. I forgot where we were. Oh no. The interior of the time machine smelled like metal and was covered in instruments of different sizes. The girl inside was sobbing. It had been almost an hour since Suzuha had left to go look around. She'd assumed that Kagari would have stopped crying by then, but she'd had no such luck.
いつまで泣いてるつもりだ。しっかりしなきゃダメだ。まゆ姉さんの気持ちを考えろ。
Shina Kagari looked up at Suzuha, her face wet with tears.
Mama. だから泣くんじゃない。鬱陶しい。でも。
Suzuha, come on now. Suzuha walked over to Kagari and knelt down so they'd be at eye level. She had no intention of spoiling her. Her goal was to save billions of lives, and this was her first mission.
いいか？これからはカガリもワルキューレの一員とみなす。私の部下として扱う。非戦闘員じゃないからな。
Oh, it's like the actual Valkyries. I thought it was going to be about the organization. No. Demigoddesses from Norse mythology. There are more than a dozen Valkyries, all with their own names. The Valkyries choose who will die on the battlefield and who will be victorious, and they take the souls of those who fought bravely to Valhalla to prepare for the coming Ragnarok. Skuld, the youngest of the three Norns and the Norn of the future, is a Valkyrie.
ここは1975年だ。知ってる人間は誰もいない。父さんもマユ姉さんも出生してない。つまり、誰も守ってくれないんだ。自分の身を守るのは自分だけだと思え。いいな。
Kagari was a brave girl, and she finally realized that now wasn't the time for tears. She tried to stop crying. It wasn't working well, but it was a lot better for her emotions than sobbing. She was a smart girl. Suzuha knew that.
あまり時間がない。この時代の人間にタイムマシンが見つかったら大騒ぎだ。
The machine had landed on the roof of Radicon, which wasn't a spot that people visited often. The chances of anyone finding it were slim. But in this era, they had no one to help them conceal it. That meant they couldn't stay long. She needed to finish her mission quickly and move to the next time period.
何か失敗したら、またタイムマシンで時間を戻ればいいんじゃないの？
燃料の問題があるんだ。ジャンプできる回数は無限じゃない。肝心の場面で動作しなかったら話にならない。
そうなんだ。
立てるか？
Suzuha stepped out of the machine and beckoned to Kagari. Kagari looked surprised. Her eyes were narrowed at the bright sunlight. The sky above Tokyo in this time period was too dirty to be called blue. Smoke and dust clouds filled with who knew what were rising from the rows of smokestacks. It all combined with black exhaust from the cars that scurried along the ground to create a smog so thick you could literally see it. The sky above the city was covered by a veil of death. Wow, my reading skills are already deteriorating. It's too early. It's too early for this. I feel like I say that every time. But still, it was the first clear sky that Kagari had ever seen. She'd only ever known from books and videos that the sky could be this bright. The nuclear weapons used during World War III had changed the weather over Tokyo, and the sky was constantly covered in dull gray clouds. The sun's light was always weak when it shone through them, and it was never this bright.
私が子供の頃はまだこんな感じの空だった。少しだけど覚えてるよ。
Suzuha looked up at the sky too.
空気が美味しい。
In 2036, you needed a filter and a mask to go outside for any length of time. Compared to that, 1975 was a lot cleaner.
わかるだろ、かがり。父さんたちがどうして世界線の改変に全てをかけていたのか。世界線がどうとか、歴史がどうとか、そんな理屈は後でいい。今はただ、この空の色を守りたいと思えば。
Kagari slipped her hand into her pocket and took out the faded green Upa keychain. She stared at it with a sad look on her face. She was probably thinking about Mayuri, her mother. And she was probably trying to understand what it meant that her mother had put her inside the time machine. I thought that was, like, coming from outside. That scared the shit out of me. I thought my door was opening. Suzuha decided that Kagari was all right now and closed the hatch on the time machine from the outside. The lock flipped on automatically. The only person who could open it now was Suzuha, whose biometrics had been loaded into the system ahead of time. Even if someone did find the machine, it would be a while before they found out what it was.
かがり、これを見ろ。
Suzuha handed her a printout of a photo.
これ何？
IBN5100 っていうレトロ PC だ。私たちの時代に存在していたものはどれも満足に動かない。けどこの時代なら感動品が入手できる。
The MacGuffin to end all MacGuffins.
これを手分けして探すのが私とお前の最初のミッションだ。
うん。
連絡はこれで。
She handed Kagari a small transceiver.
通信できる距離はかなり短いらしいから気休め程度だと思え。
オーキードーキー。
Yes! Oh, my heart. Oh, my heart sings. Okie dokie.
90分ごとにこのビルの前に集合。状況を確認。それを繰り返す。いいな。
オーキードーキー。
いい返事だ。
The best answer. Suzuha nodded and patted Kagari on the head.
よし、ミッション開始。
Suzuha was on the top of Radican in 2010, looking down.
35年か。
That's how long ago it had been in real time since she'd spoken to Kagari here. From her perspective, it had only been a few months. The view from up here had changed a lot since then, and in the next 26 years, it would change even more. She'd seen for herself how this building changed over a span of 61 years. The thought didn't make her feel sentimental. Instead, she felt the loneliness and fear that comes from having a past not shared with anyone else. Using the time machine to change the world lines means breaking the rules of the universe. Okabe Rintaro's words flashed through her mind. Still, lately, she'd been thinking more about Kagari. God, I fucking love this track, dude. I feel like I say that about every single time the music changes. I'm like, man, this song is so good. This one is so good. It's like, they're all just incredible. She'd been searching the city at regular intervals. She was looking for Shina Kagari. She didn't even know if she was in Tokyo. She had no clues. She didn't even know what Kaguri looked like now. So maybe it was a waste of time. Even so, she had to find Kaguri herself. But she hadn't had any better luck today. She turned around and looked toward the time machine. She would come here every day. Her primary reason for coming was to see if her father, Hashide Itaru, had been here. Anytime she let her guard down, he would come in to try and examine it. She'd told him it would cause a time paradox, but he didn't listen. She needed to keep constant watch. To be honest, she had a lot of things she had to do. And then she heard the metal door to the roof open. Was it her dad? She squinted into the darkness, but the person she saw was much smaller than Itaru and had cat ears coming out of her head. Definitely not just an accessory. Those are her actual ears. Ferris is Ferris.
なんだ、ルミ姉さんか。
Ferris Nyan had a spring in her step as she approached Suzuha.
ルミ姉さんって誰のことかにゃ？フェイリスはフェイリスにゃ。
I do love the fact that, like, of everyone who knows the secret, Ferris is one of them. Like, there's something about the fact that, like, you know, obviously Okabe, Mayuri, and Daru, like, they were there, so obviously they have to know. But at some point, Suzuha was like, well, I gotta keep this shit under wraps. I'm gonna have to tell Ferris, aren't I? God damn it. I love that. I love that.
ルミ姉さんはルミ姉さんだよ。
Ferris's real name was Akiha Rumiho. She was Daru's friend and had helped them in many different ways in 2036. So Suzuha had known her ever since she was very young and had always called her Big Sis Rumi. For whatever reason in this era, she always wanted to be called Ferris, though. When Suzuha asked why, she simply responded, Ferris is Ferris, nya? An answer which meant nothing to Suzuha.
ラボに誰もいなかったからこっちかなと思ったら正解だったにゃ。はい、差し入れ。余り物で悪いんやけど。
Also, I love this sport where they're pointing. Oh, I love it. I love all these characters so goddamn much. Ferris showed her a cake box with the logo from the maid cafe where she worked, May Queen Nyan.
父さんがラボに不在でよかったよ。
If he ate something like that at this hour, he'd get even fatter.
ダルニャンじゃなくてスズニャンへの差し入れにゃ。
私に？なんで？
にゃふふ、好きなくせに。
Ferris grinned and nudged Suzuha in the side with her elbow.
私は別に。
アップルタルトにモンブラン。あとイチゴのショートケーキもあるにゃ。ほら、美味しそうだにゃ。
Ferris opened up the box and showed her what was inside. Suzuha could smell the sweet cream and fruit.
さあ、今すぐ美味しく食べるといいにゃ。心置きなく食べるといいにゃ。ほら、あんして。その可愛いお口に食べさせてあげるにゃ。
Oh my god.
冷蔵庫にしまって明日食べる。
スズニャンはストイックにゃ。
Ferris laughed and handed over the box.
賞味期限は明日だから明日中に食べなきゃダメにゃぞ。
ありがとう。
I'm gonna be honest, it's weird seeing Ferris with like a normal smile. Like where her mouth doesn't do the kitty thing where it's like whoop whoop. It's just, it's weird. Something about it. Something about Ferris with like a normal smile.
どういたしまして。
Ferris gave her a mischievous wink and looked up at the time machine beside them.
ダルニャンのタイムマシン研究の方はどうかにゃ。
頑張ってはいるみたい。ルミ姉さん、このマシンまだここに置いておいても？
Suzuha looked around the roof as she asked. It was solely thanks to Ferris that no one had really noticed the massive object on the roof. She was the heir to a rich family that had a lot of influence in this area and had contributed a lot to the development of Akihabara. She was helping to hide the time machine.
このフロアというか屋上はフェイリスが借り上げちゃったから平気にゃ。
Ferris the champion.
オーナーさんには体感ゲームの研究をしてるって言ってあるにゃ。ちょっと苦しいわけにゃけど。
助かるよ。
気にしないでいいにゃ。この世界のエレメンタルを売薬兵たちの魔の手から救うためならフェイリスはいつでも協力するにゃ。
Hold on. Yaki, winged interstellar creatures that appear in the Cthulhu mythos. Created by August Derleth, the co-creator of the Cthulhu mythos. Oh my god. Give me a second. Co-creator of the Cthulhu mythos, along with H.P. Lovecraft. These predators can be found in stories such as The House on Curwen Street. That made it sound like there were going to be more examples. Nope, that's the one example. They're described as being chimera-like creatures around 3 meters tall with the wings of a pterosaur, the legs of an eagle, and the abdomen like a hornet's. Despite their terrifying appearance, they understood human speech, and if they feel it's in their best interest, they can even work together with humans. Oh my god, this is a long one. In space, they usually travel at around 1/10 the speed of light, but an organ called the Hyun, located in their abdomen. Jesus Christ, this is this is like next level lore. Not even Steins Gate lore. This is fucking Cthulhu lore. What the allows them to fly faster than the speed of light. The Byakhee are servants of Hastur, the god of shepherds, a creation of Ambrose Bierce, author of the famous book The Devil's Dictionary. I hesitate to click on this, but I am curious. The 4 spirits who control the 4 elements: earth, water, fire, and air. The existence of the 4... Oh my god, no. 4 elementals. They control elements. The end.
そう。昔から、いや、今からしたら未来か。思ってたんだけどさ、ルミ姉さんの話って時々すごく難しくなるんだよね。一体何語？
Nyan-Nyan-ian, of course.
考えるんじゃない。感じるのにゃ。
いいやいいや。
寒いにゃ。フェイリスはお家に帰ろうかにゃ。
In the end, she never could get an answer. To Suzuha, Ferris was always a great mystery.
送っていくよ。一緒に出よう。
Don't feel too bad, Suzuha. No one truly understands. Like, she's a mystery to us all. In the best way possible. それじゃあついでにうちでご飯も食べてくといいにゃ。
そういうつもりで言ったわけじゃないんだけど。
どうせ普段大したもの食べてないにゃ。スズニャンのストイックさを見てるとフェイリスがなんとかしてあげにゃきゃーって思っちゃうにゃ。保護欲？母性？とにかくそういうのがかきたてられるのにゃ。
私は大丈夫だから。
Before she finished her sentence, she felt someone looking at her. She glanced around.
にゃ、どうしたのにゃ？
She listened carefully. She definitely heard a very faint sound from the direction of the metal door that led to the stairs. It was small enough that Suzuha was only able to notice it because of her training.
誰かいる。
にゃにゃ。
多分話を聞かれた。
Most of the discussion was worthless, but they'd talked about the time machine a little. If someone heard that... Suzuha yanked her gun out of her jacket, and in an instant, ran toward the stairs as fast as she could. She heard someone running down the stairs as soon as she did. The sound, heavy military boots in a wide stride, got further and further away.
早い。
She opened up the door and jumped onto the landing. Then she raced down the stairs, skipping 3 steps with every stride. But still, it wasn't fast enough. Suzuha was born fast, and she'd been trained to be faster, but it wasn't enough. When she finally made it to the 2nd floor, she could hear the loud revving of a motorcycle.
まず、
She panicked and slipped on an object that had been left halfway up the stairs, then rolled her way to the bottom. She managed to get into the right position and protect her head, so it was her hips that struck the ground. She just got fucking Looney Tunes? She forced herself to stand up and run outside. She could see the taillights of a large motorcycle speeding away. The driver was wearing a black helmet and riding suit, and already a good distance away, so she couldn't even tell if they were man or woman. They revved their engine loudly, as if to mock her, then spun a corner and disappeared onto Chuodori.
すずにゃん。
A little later, Ferris caught up.
大丈夫かにゃ。
逃げられた。
それしまった方がいいにゃ。
What? What are you talking about? What's wrong? Everything is fine. Don't worry about it. She put the gun in her hands back in her jacket holster and brushed away the hair that, oh my, not even a half hour. It hasn't even been a half hour. How? She put the gun in her hands back in her jacket holster and brushed away hair that sweat had stuck to her brow.
今の誰にゃ。
わからない。けど、一般人じゃない。訓練されてる。と思う。
訓練？
階段に何か落ちてなかった？
バッグが転がってたにゃ。
ちょうど死角になる位置だった。多分わざと落としたんだよ。しかも、私がそこを通るタイミングでエンジンを空ぶかしした。見事に引っかかったよ。
トラップってことかにゃ。
ああいうことがとっさにできるっていうのは特殊な訓練を受けてるからだ。じゃなきゃ無理。
Suzuha glared in the direction the bike disappeared and started to think. Who was it? CERN? There was an unofficial CERN group, the Rounders, that were searching for IBN 5100s in Akihabara. Okabe Rintaro had told her that. But he'd only encountered them on another world line.
誰かはわからないけど、私たちの他にタイムマシンのことを知ってる奴がいるのは間違いない。
Was it that they knew about it, but they weren't going to do anything more? Or did they intend to steal the time machine from her? Since she didn't know, she had to assume the worst, or she wouldn't be prepared to deal with it. She looked up to the sky and sighed. It was becoming a bad habit.
ねえ、ルミ姉さん。このことはオカリンおじさんには内密にしておいて。
なんで？
今のオカリンおじさんが知ったら、タイムマシンを破壊しろって言いかねない。危険だからって。でしょ？
そうにゃけど。
私は絶対にマシンを守るよ。シュタインズゲートの入り口へオカリンおじさんを連れて行かなきゃいけないんだから。それが未来の父さんとの、私をここに送り出してくれた人たちみんなとの約束だからさ。
すずにゃ。わかったにゃ。その代わりダルニャにだけはちゃんと話しておくこと。
オーキードーキー。
Last part was almost a whisper as her words melted into the Akihabara's sky. I can fucking read, I swear. Oh my god, I have like fat tongue syndrome today. Jesus Christ. Hyajo Maho was fidgeting. She knew exactly why, but she still didn't want to admit it.
魔法、準備はできたかい？
はい。
She awkwardly stood up from the chair as Dr. Leskinen spoke to her.
何ですか？
少しはおめかしするかと思ったんだが、魔法はマイペースだね。
Dr. Leskinen stared at her for a moment and then spoke. It was obviously it was referring to her outfit.
この前みたいにパーティーに出席するわけじゃないんですから。
あの時だって白衣のままだったじゃないか。
あれは服を忘れたんです。
そうだったね。
Dr. Leskinen was wearing his translator all the time these days. In fact, he had actually told Maho to talk to him in Japanese.
さて、クリスとリンタロウはどういう関係を築いているかな？会うのが楽しみだよ。
Maho and Dr. Leskinen were about to head into Tokyo proper. There, they were to meet Okabe Rintaro. It had been 2 weeks since they'd first asked him to test Amadeus. It was time for the first report. Of course, that was the reason Maho was fidgeting. She was nervous to meet Okabe, no, to see Kurisu for the first time in quite a while. Of course, Maho was able to talk to Kurisu anytime she wanted, but since she'd asked Okabe to be a tester, she tried to avoid doing so as much as possible. She didn't want her conversations to add any extra noise.
教授、出発する前に一つ聞いても？
なんなるいと。
なぜ岡部さんなんですか？
Maho had wanted to ask Dr. Leskinen that for a long time. If she was going to ask it, though, now was the time. Dr. Leskinen thought for a minute.
嫉妬しているのかい、魔法？
それは。
She felt heat flush her face. In other words, he was right. Yeah, she was jealous of Okabe. Not that she wanted to admit it.
正直納得はしていません。クリスの話し相手なら他にも適任がいたはずです。
例えば君とか？
そうは言いません。私はクリスともアマデウスとも近すぎますから。
リンタロウはいい青年だよ。
本気でそう信じているなら教授はお人よしです。人の本質を一度会っただけで理解することなんて不可能ですよ。もし彼が私たちに隠れて他の研究者にアマデウスを売り渡してしまったら、最初はそのつもりはなかったとしてもお金を前にしたら気持ちが揺らぐことだってあります。それが人間というものです。
仮にリンタロウがアマデウスを売ったとしよう。
I'm gonna be honest.
それでどうなるかな？
I'm gonna be honest. I love Maho's skepticism. Like, she's wrong, but she's not wrong to be skeptical. Like, I love it.
アクセス権を手に入れた何者かはクリスと仲良くなってアマデウスそのものを乗っ取ったりできるかな？
それは。
Maho asked herself the question and then realized the chance was almost zero.
ありえません。
そう、ありえない。なぜならそんな事態になればクリスの方が対話を拒否するだろうからね。アマデウスはそういう意味でとても面倒くさいシステムだよ。なかなかこちらの思い通りには動いてくれない。もちろんアマデウスが説得される可能性もあるだろうけれど、そのために私はモデルとなる人格にクリスと魔法を選んだとも言えるわけでね。
Dr. Leskinen gave her a mischievous wink.
私もクリスも気難しいですからね。そうやすやすと説得はされないでしょう。
She knew he was teasing her, so she decided to say it.
いかにも 君たちは本当に容赦ない。これぞ最強のセキュリティだよ。
けなされているように聞こえるんですが。
君たちは我が研究室が誇る最強のレディーさ。
Dr. Leskinen laughed happily. He always had a childlike innocence about him.
いずれにせよ、エムディオスの AI は一筋縄ではいかないわけでね。だからこそ面白いとも言える。そんな彼女たちを身内だけで独占していても進歩はないだろう。エムディオスが劇的な進化を遂げるための起爆剤のようなものがちょうど欲しいと考えていたところなんだ。しかもなるべく研究とは無関係な人物に預けたかった。ウィンターローは聡明だし適任だと思ったんだ。クリスの友人でもあったわけだし。とりあえず今日の報告次第で判断してもいいんじゃないか。クリスがウィンターローと過ごしてどう変化したのかを見極めてからだね。私たちが見たことのないような意外な一面を覗かせてくれるかもしれないよ。
はい。
That was what was making her nervous. If Kurisu changed into someone she didn't know, that would make her sad.
そろそろ時間だ。出よう。
Maho nodded. The boy. I walked onto the grounds of Yanabayashi Shrine and quietly took a look around. Several cats were sunbathing beneath the cold winter sky, but there was no sign of anyone else. Lukako wasn't back from school yet. Okay, I could talk to Kurisu without anyone staring at me here. I was supposed to meet with Dr. Leskinen and Maho after this. Before that happened, I wanted to confirm something with Kurisu. I decided to start the app. Oh, I see. I gotta do it.
Hello.
Hello! Hello! I fucking love the hello.
話がある。
今日はこの後教授や先輩に会う予定なのよね。その件について。
ああ。
緊張する必要はないんじゃない？基本的にはログを提出して、あとはあんたから見た私がどんな印象だったのか軽く聞かれるぐらいだと思う。
それだ。ログだよ。それを聞きたかった。もしかしてこれまでの会話は全部記録されてるのか？
最初に話したでしょ。私は私以外アクセス不可の領域にログを取っているって聞いてなかった？
それを今回教授とヒアジョーさんに提出するのか？
多分そう。
ということはプライベートのことをお前に喋ろうものならヒアジョーさんやレスキネン教授に筒抜けっていうことか？
あんたね、今さら
Yeah, it was a little late. Kurisu and I had been talking for 2 weeks. I should have asked about this when I got the access key for Amadeus.
今日になって気づいたんだ。なあ、俺これまでに何かまずいことを話さなかったか？
例えば合コンでろくに女の子と話せなかったこととか、実家が八百屋さんなのにナスが嫌いなこととか。
ナスは嫌いなんじゃない。苦手なだけだ。
If that was all, I didn't really care.
あんたが最初に私と話した時にクリスティーナって呼んだこととか。
それについては忘れてくれ。
人の記憶は曖昧で、時間が経てば経つほど主観が入り混じるし、物語が付与されていく。その内容がポジティブかネガティブかに関係なく、印象的な言葉しか思い出さないことも多い。それに引きずられて前後の会話の記憶はねじ曲げられていく。
Huh? What was she talking about?
それが悪いことだと言ってるわけじゃない。 人の記憶というのはそういうものなんだから。でもアマデウスは人じゃない。まだ研究段階の不完全な AI よ。これは教授たちにとって大きな壁の一つなんだけど、実は人の持つ曖昧さをアマデウスはまだ完全には再現できていない。つまりね、忘れるという脳の高度な機能、それを完璧には模倣できてないってこと。
でも ATF でのレスキネン教授の講演だと、アマデウスは不必要なことは忘れてしまうって。
ええ、確かに忘れるわ。けど言ったでしょ、私たちはまるで秘密の日記のようにログを取ってるって。結局その中には全ての情報が残ってしまってるわけ。そしてそれをロードしてくれば、忘却したはずのデータは私の記憶に戻ってきてしまう。 OK？
In other words, asking her to forget was a waste of time?
代替案はログを消すことだけど、私にとってログはバックアップだから絶対無理。仮に一箇所だけ消去しても同じ。前後の文脈を参照して、その不自然に消去された箇所を自動的に修復してしまう。それでもなんとか記憶を改ざんしたいというのなら、大元のプログラムそのものをいじるしかない。
I didn't have that level of access, and I didn't understand how the program worked at all. So basically, until I told Krisu why I called her Christina, she was going to keep asking. What a pain.
で、どうしてクリスティーナ？
I like how they went on that entire tirade about the whole forgetting thing and how it's like, oh, I got logs, and I'll never, I literally cannot forget because it's backed up and all that. When in reality, it doesn't matter. She wouldn't stop asking no matter what. Even if she like was capable of forgetting, she wouldn't stop asking. Like she couldn't forget if she tried, even if she wasn't backing up her data.
本当に引き下がらないな。今すぐ通話を切ってもいいんだぞ。
そうやって逃げたって、今説明した通り私は忘れない。はぐらかされるとかえって気になってしょうがなくなるのよね。それともあえてそうすることで私に構ってほしいっていう合図を送ってる？
構ってちゃうはお前だろう。こっちが大学の講義を受けてる最中でもお構いなしで連絡してくるくせに。それだけじゃなく LINE でまでコメントしまくってきて。好奇心旺盛すぎる。そんな調子で無邪気に首を突っ込むといつか痛い目を見るぞ。
Hold on, let's learn about Rhine. Rhine, an instant messaging application developed by Hashida Itaru. Users can communicate with other users for free via voice calls or texting, as long as both users have the application installed. Since it is a privately developed software and isn't available on the internet, only Hashida Itaru and his friends and acquaintances use it at the moment. That's adorable. I love that. Go Daru.
研究者はそれぐらいじゃないとやっていけないのよ。
She got mad at me.
そんなにクリスティーナの件が気になるなら推論でも立ててみたらどうだ？
一応いくつかの可能性は考えてはみた。聞いて。
It's like, oh, well, let me share. She's really into this.
可能性その1。あんたはクリスティーナなんちゃらという名前のハリウッド女優が好きである。
自分がハリウッド女優並みの美貌の持ち主だとでも？
見た目は関係ない。同じ名前の人に親近感を持つのと似たような意味よ。
つまりこう言いたいわけか。私は岡部倫太郎から親近感を持たれている。
単なる例え話でしょ。言葉通りに受け止めないで。
冗談だよ。
Whenever I talked to Kurisu, I always wanted to tease her. I needed to watch out.
可能性その2。 あんたが昔付き合っていた彼女が外国人でクリスティーナっていう名前だった。これについてはあんたの絶望的な英語力を聞く限り絶対にないわね。
Damn. Oh shit. Well, hi, welcome to the party. That's fair. Just in time for Amadeus. I don't know. That's rude.
もしかしたら日本語ペラペラの金髪ブロンド美女と付き合っていたかもしれないだろ。
もしかしたの？沈黙は敗北を認めることと同意よ。
Ain't that the truth?
すいません。
可能性その3。オリジナルの私と面識があって直接あるいは間接的にそう呼んでいた。これも確率低いでしょうね。そんな風に呼ばれたら私ならこう答える。ティーナってつけるな。
Yeah, that was exactly right. That's exactly what Kurisu said. But I didn't stop because
照れくさかったんだ。
the genius named Makise Kurisu was the person I always wanted to be.
どういうこと？
素直に名前を呼べないから照れ隠しであえて茶化した言い方をした。
照れくさい？
ああ、オリジナルだけじゃなくてお前と話すのもだ。
私？
何しろモニターの中にいる女の子と話すなんて一度もない経験だったから。
それはどうも。
なんで赤くなってるんだ？
赤くなんてなってないし。
We could see you. You are, though.
女の子扱いされるなんて思ってもみなかったからちょっとびっくりしただけで。
Even that reaction was just like Kurisu.
俺はお前のそういうところが好き。
Oh, my boy. Oh, Kobe, my boy. I shuddered. What was I about to say? This was a 3D model on a screen, a tiny collection of ones and zeros in the shape of a human. What was I about to say to her?
ねえ、聞いてもいい？私たち知り合いだったのよね。つまりあんたとオリジナルの私がっていう意味だけど。答えたくないならそれでいいけど、どういう関係だったの？少し興味ある。クリスティーナって呼ばれても私は怒らなかった？怒ったけれどそれでも笑っているした。
Stop!
死にたくないよ。
Hey, Shadow Anime. How's it going? How do you do? I was hit with a violent urge to throw up. I could see Kurisu in front of me, covered in blood. She was looking at me, her eyes cold.
あんたが私を殺したのよ。
Going to the arcade today? Oh, that's awesome. Well, have fun at the arcade. I can't remember the last time I've been to an arcade. I don't think we have any of those nearby. That's awesome.
どうしたの？ねえ、顔が真っ青。
I touched the smartphone and ended the call. And I became too dizzy to stand. I tried to throw up, but nothing came out. My hands were shaking. That's right, I can't change reality. But there I was, trying to talk to Kurisu like nothing had happened. I was treating her like the real Kurisu and trying to avert my eyes from what I'd done. I was just clinging to Kurisu. This was wrong. I shouldn't talk to Kurisu anymore. The call was from Kurisu. I hung up in the middle of the conversation, so she was probably mad. I'm gonna go ahead and pass on this. I'm gonna give this boy a breather. Mad? She was just an AI. Kurisu's anger was just a program. Kurisu wasn't Kurisu. It's weird to say. The brackets and shit. Don't treat them like they're the same. I shouldn't talk to Kurisu anymore. Just the incoming call was almost enough to trigger a flashback. In my mind, I could see an image of Kurisu's bloody face. I should turn off my phone. This was getting bad. I couldn't even stay. You know what? I changed my mind. Fine. Power off. No, answer the call. Oh wait, no, I can't answer the call anymore? Oh, okay. Let's keep the phone off. That's a bad idea. It had been half a year, and things were still like this. Even I was surprised. I don't remember all the big triggers in this game, but that's definitely one of them, right? Like, I'm gonna note this for later. I resisted the impulse to try to throw up again. Just turn off the phone. No. I wanted to get away from Kurisu. It wasn't her fault. It was mine. I couldn't become dependent on Amadeus. This wasn't right, and I needed to stop. I was blaspheming Kurisu's memory. She had sacrificed herself to send me to the Beta World Line. I needed to live up to her expectations. I couldn't waste time talking to Kurisu. I needed to accept the fact that I couldn't save her and move on. Cut the power and shut off this call. At least until you meet Dr. Leskinen after this. Get Kurisu out of your mind. Don't panic. Calm down. Is this just gonna come? Circles. Oh, wait. Nope. Okay, fine. Re-answered the phone.
なんだ
なんだじゃない。急に切るなんて失礼。どうかしたの？
なんでもない
Oh, I probably should have made a save or something, right? A quick save, but yeah.
でも、
I remember
ひどい
these
顔色してる
dang
じゃない。
triggers.
本当になんでもない放っておいてくれしばらく連絡してこないでくれると助かる
あまり無理せずに誰か知り合いに連絡しなさいよ。それじゃ。
Kurisu gave up easier than I expected. Maybe she realized that as an artificial intelligence, there was nothing she could do. Realized? I was making her sound like a real person. And the second that thought crossed my mind, I almost saw an image of a bloody hand. I gritted my teeth and waited for it to pass. I should really turn off my smartphone until I calmed down a little. I was fine just a moment ago, but now even hearing Kurisu's voice was enough to send me into a panic. I'd gone back to how I was half a year ago. Back then, even hearing Kurisu's name was enough to make me dizzy.
手を出すべきじゃなかった
I shouldn't have tried to chase Kurisu's shadow. For now, I should just turn off the smartphone. All right, fine, I'm turning off the fucking phone. Jesus Christ. Did I? Oh, I fucking. I swear, game. I clicked the button. Whatever. I don't even know. In the end, I couldn't make that decision. Apparently. I give up. Okabe, take the wheel. I gulped down an entire bottle of mineral water and caught my breath. There was still a little time before my meeting. I wanted to get some air up here and recover a little. I looked down over the scenery below the overpass. The city was in the Crimson. That's not the word that's there. Words. They're difficult. The city was in the Christmas spirit. The atmosphere was charged with excitement. It was the exact opposite of me. I took more deep breaths. I still felt like I wanted to throw up. I was getting a headache too. If I went to Dr. Leskinen like this, I'm sure I'd worry him. And then I realized that the two girls coming up the stairs were looking at me. I peered into the late afternoon darkness to try and make out their faces. One of them, the girl with the short haircut, waved.
やっぱりオカリンさんだ。
こんにちは。
ああ、マユリの友達の。
They were Mayuri's friends and fellow cosplayers. I think their cosplay names were Kaede and Fubuki. I didn't know their real names. Which was Kaede and which was Fubuki again?
大丈夫ですか？具合悪そうですけど。
I remember.
ああ、大丈夫。
If I made them worry here and they talked to Mayuri, it would cause a big fuss. I didn't want her to worry about me when she didn't have to. I shouldn't have come back to Akihabara anyway. I'd run into people I knew just by walking through town. I should have gone towards Kondo when I left the shrine.
オカリンさんっていつもなんだか辛そうに見えます。
そうか。
Did I boop these two? I mean, they're... You know what? Boop. Boop. There. I don't think I did.
そうだよ。
ふぶきちゃん。
そんなオカリンさんを見てるマユシーも辛そうで、私もオカリンさんとマユシーのこと見てると泣きそうになって。って私何言ってんだろう。
This Fubuki girl must really care about Mayuri. I felt a little better after hearing that.
オカリンさんの好きな人って誰ですか？
Well, oh, this definitely isn't gonna trigger his fucking PTSD for sure. The girl I like? An image of Kurisu appeared in the corner of my eye again. The feeling in my hands when I took her life came back. No, calm down.
オカリンさん、ごめんなさい。失礼なこと聞いちゃって。私オカリンさん、本当に大丈夫ですか？
ああ、大丈夫。
Aida and Fubuki were looking at me, worried. I got away from them as fast as I could. Oh. Well, that's the end of it. No, I'm kidding.
テスターをやめたいです。
When I started the conversation with that, both Dr. Leskinen and Maho looked shocked. We were meeting in a room at a luxury hotel in the heart of Tokyo. It felt like the sort of secret meeting you'd see in a spy movie, or maybe it only felt that way because the old me wasn't completely gone.
いきなりそんなこと。無責任だわ。
Maho seemed to finally understand what I meant, and her anger was clear.
魔法、落ち着けなさい。このテストはむしろリンタロウの善意で成り立ってるんだよ。引き受けてもらえただけでもこちらとしてはありがたかった。ここで辞退しても無責任ということは決してないから大丈夫。
Dr. Leskinen smiled and offered me his hand. I took hold of his giant hand and shook it back, but I looked down, unable to look him in the eye.
すみません。
ただ私としてもできれば続けてもらいたいんだよ。ざっとログを見たがかなり頻繁に話してくれているじゃないか。それに研究室で我々が相手をしていた頃とはクリスの話し方がだいぶ違う。 人は社会的な生き物だ。相手と状況によって言動を変える。それをエムデウスでも再現できていると見ていいだろう。だからこそもうしばらくテストを続けたいんだ。ちなみにやめようと思った理由は何かな？エムデウスと話すのが辛くなったかい？
いえ、逆です。
逆？
アマデウスとクリスと話すのはとても楽しいんです。でもそれが怖くて。
I desperately tried to explain the feelings that were welling up within me, even though I didn't understand them myself. I told them how scared I was that I was starting to see Kurisu and Kurisu as the same person.
やはり君に負担をかけてしまったね。本当にすまない。
I don't know how to verbally distinguish those names. I don't
た
know.
だ、君のその反応はとても興味深い。
Let's put a little stank on it. Kurisu.
研究者ではない目線でエムデウスを捉えているという意味で、私も勉強になるよ。こんな言い方や感じ方になってしまうのを許してほしい。何しろ根っからの研究者なものでね。
いえ、こっちもわがまま言っているのは分かっているんです。
Maho hadn't said a word for a while. She was frowning, and she seemed to be intently focused on studying Amadeus's logs. I didn't want her looking at me, because it made me feel guilty, but...
わかった。テストの事態については君の望む通りにしよう。ただ、アクセス権は君のスマートフォンにそのまま残しておいて構わないかな？
え？
今後、エムデウスと話すのも話さないのも君の自由だ。クリスの方からは君に連絡しないように言っておくから。私たちと君との関係を今日これで終わりにはしたくないんだ。せっかくできた日本の友人だし、それに魔法も寂しがるしね。
教授
わかりました。
Felt like giving in, but at the same time, I didn't want to lose my relationship with Dr. Leskinen. My goal of going to Victor Condrea University hadn't changed at all. And then Dr. Leskinen got a call on his smartphone.
おっ、失礼。ちょっと電話してくるよ。魔法、その間にリンタロと仲直りしておくようにね。
Dr. Leskinen left the room with a mischievous wink. That is the third everybody winking mischievously. So many mischievous winks today. I was alone with Maho.
ごめんなさい。さっきは怒鳴ったりして。
いや、
教授の言う通り、こちらがお願いしている立場なのに、アマデウスは今の私にとっては姉妹、子供みたいなものだから、それを投げ出されたように思えて、つい
力になれなくてすまない。
あなたの気持ちも分かっているつもりよ。あるいはつもりだったかしら。
Maho sighed again.
自己嫌悪だわ。ダメね、私。多分前頭前皮質がひねくれてできてるのよ。そうに違いないわ。
は？
前頭前皮質は人格を形成する部位の一つね。情報のフィルタリングを行うこともあるわ。己の中の認めがたい情報を遮断したり、 自己欺瞞を行ったり。
よくわからない。
要するにむき出しの情動を隠そうとしてとっさに嘘をついたりするのよ。他人だけじゃなく自分自身にもね。今の私みたいに難しい言葉を並べて自分を取り繕ってやろうとか、こういうことも前頭前皮質がやってるんだと思うわ。
That would apply just as well to the old me, Hoin Kyoma. When I realized that, there was nothing I could say.
誰でもそういうことってあると思う。
私は特別ひどいのよ。多分。
I mean, in that case, that must be the part of my brain that's constantly telling me how much I suck. Despite the fact that, like, I'm fine. I think I'm fine. But, like, you know, sometimes I just, you know, my brain is telling me, hey, you're the worst thing ever. Oh, okay. Fuck you, prefrontal cortex.
今後も気が向いたらでいいからアマデウスを構ってあげて。ほんの短い時間でもいいの。
考えておくよ。
ありがとう。
Maho flopped back onto the sofa.
なあ、聞いていいか？クリスの母親のこと。
I love how fucking casual Maho is. She's like, ah. She's the best.
前にパーティーの時、君とレスキネン教授が話しているのが偶然聞こえたんだ。クリスの家に何かあったって。
ああ、あのこと。
Maho seemed to remember it quickly. She nodded.
クリスのお母さんから電話があったの。家に放火されたんですって。
大丈夫なのか？
ちょうどその日は留守にしていたから大丈夫だったそうよ。
That was a relief. After all that had happened, I really didn't want Kurisu's mother to have to go through any more.
私、クリスのお母さんには結構可愛がってもらっていたの。休日に家にもよく招待してもらってね。だから心配だわ。変なことに巻き込まれていなければいいのだけど。
変なこと？
I noticed the way she said that phrase. A cold chill ran down my back.
ただの放火じゃないのか？
それが。
Maho seemed unsure if she should tell me.
ヒヤジョーさん。
I urged her to speak. She nodded slightly.
それが最初は地元の警察が捜査していたらしいのだけれど、その後 FBI を名乗る人たちが来たらしくて。
FBI？
ええ、 FBI が出てくるような事件じゃないのによ。それと放火した犯人を隣の住人が目撃していたそうなんだけど、その証言によると犯人はただの放火犯には見えなかったって。
What does an ordinary arsonist look like? That's my question.
複数犯でね、なんだか特殊部隊みたいだったって。ほとんど何も喋らず火をつけたらすぐ近くに止まっていた車に乗り込んで去っていったそうよ。こんな言い方が正しいかどうかわからないけど、手際がすごく良かったみたい。火の回りも異常なほど早かったらしいわ。
Was she trying to say that it was no ordinary arson, but the work of a professional? I couldn't laugh away the possibility. I knew for a fact there were people like that in this world.
それと
そ
その犯人たちがロシア語を話していたって。
ロシア語？
Russian. The first thing that came to my mind, whether I liked it or not, was Nakabachi. Half a year ago, he'd stolen a paper about time travel from Kurisu, his own daughter, and used it to seek asylum in Russia. Could that have something to do with it?
それともう一つ。クリスが亡くなったばかりの頃、私たちの研究室でもおかしなことがあったの。地元警察と一緒に日本の刑事という人が来たのよ。日米の合同捜査でクリスの事件を調べているって。もちろん私たちはできる範囲で協力したんだけれど、何日か経って大学が警察に問い合わせをしたら、そんな刑事が日本から来た事実はないって言われたわ。
じゃあその日本の刑事は偽物だった？
それだけじゃないの。地元警察も私たちの研究室を捜査した事実はないって。つまりね、日本の刑事どころか警察と称してやってきた人たち全員が
偽物。
そのことがあってから私。
Maho shook a little and wrapped her arms around herself.
私クリスの死には何か裏があると疑っているわ。別に陰謀論者ではないけれど、何かもっと別の理由でクリスは殺されて、それが闇に葬られてしまったんじゃないかと、そう考えているのよ。
I was the one who killed Kurisu. The police never found out. They never would, probably. No one could prove a murder that had been committed by a time traveler. The police had announced that a foreign thief had snuck into the storeroom at Radican, and Kurisu had been killed because she saw him. Supposedly, there was an international warrant out for the thief's arrest because he'd already left the country. And when I killed Kurisu, there was one other person there, Dr. Nakabachi. It was eerie that his name hadn't come up at all. Russia, CERN, the time machine. I remembered the future that Suzuha, or perhaps I should say John Teeter, had spoken of. She'd said that World War III was going to start within a decade, and it would be the time machine that set it off. The EU and Russia would be in a race to develop it, and then even America would intervene. That would be the spark. The spark? That's not even a word. Spark! Spark! Were we at the center of a chain of events that would result in the deaths of over 5 billion people? I couldn't help but feel that way.
このままじゃクリスは浮かばれないわ。真実を知りたい。
真実？
I couldn't stop myself from shaking as I looked at Maho's face.
真実を知りたいって。
That was dangerous. If she tried to learn the truth, there could be no doubt that she'd put herself in danger. The Rounders, who came crashing through the veil of night. Fuck off. I never want to see this picture again. I never want to see this fucking picture again! I never want to see this fucking image. My childhood friend who died in my arms after being shot in the head. This one I could also go without saying. And after that, the nightmarish and seemingly endless time loops. All the horrors that I'd experienced in the Alpha World line came flooding back, and I fought to stifle a moan.
でもそれは警察に任せておいた方がいい。
そうかしら。
少なくとも自分でどうにかできるなんて思わないことだ。人間一人の力なんてあまりにちっぽけなものだから。
After I said that, I regretted it, but it was too late. Maho's gaze had turned into a piercing glare.
あなた、 もしかして何か知っているの？
My panic was about to show. I quickly covered my face with my hands.
そんなはずないだろう。
そう。変なこと言って悪かったわ。私、クリスのことになるとついムキになってしまうの。彼女のこと本当に好きだったのね。
あいつは本当にいいやつだったし、本当にすごいやつだった。俺も好きだったよ。
ええ。あなたのことを見ていればわかるわ。
Heavy silence filled the air between us. I felt like I had to say something, but fortunately, Dr. Leskinen came back just then.
二人ともよかったらこれから食事でもどうかな？
Hey boy, what's up? Sorry. Maho and I nodded and stood up from the sofa.
岡部さん、またこちらでのクリスの話を聞かせてくれる？
ああ、いつでも。
I was just barely able to smile back at Maho. I saw a dark blue van come around the corner of the underground parking lot. Its tires squealed a little. It wasn't a Japanese car. It was a station wagon that looked like a sports car from some mature. What the fuck is wrong with my brain? Foreign. What? From some foreign manufacturer is the words that is there. I didn't know a lot about cars, but supposedly if you purchased it from a dealer, it could easily go for over 8 million yen. The reason I knew all this was because the car's owner had told me over and over. The station wagon stopped in front of us, and there was a short bark from the horn. Associate Professor Izaki came out from the driver's side. While I was eating with Dr. Leskinen and Maho, he'd called me about something else. When I told him I was having dinner with the two of them, he'd offered to drive us home. Dr. Leskinen had tried to refuse, but Izaki had insisted so much that he had no choice but to accept. He had a pretty nice car for an associate professor. This was the cause of a lot of speculation around the college. Some people said his family was rich, and others said that he had oh my god! And others that he had the wife of some CEO as a patron. He'd once quietly told me the truth, that he was single and spent all his money on the car, but who even knew if that was true? Izaki was acting like he was a professional chauffeur, opening the rear door and escorting Dr. Leskinen and Maho. Dr. Leskinen thanked him and got inside. Maho went around the back to load up her luggage.
岡部君、ちゃっかりレスキネン教授に気に入られてるなんてなかなか抜け目ないな、この。
He grinned and poked me with his elbow.
この子には手放しちゃいけないぜ。君の将来のためにね。
はあ。
He was a hard guy to hate, but for an associate professor, he seemed kind of shallow. It was one of the unfortunate things about him. He waved to me and opened the driver's side door. What was that sound? About the same time I heard that strange sound, a hole appeared in the window of the front passenger side. Izaki screamed and fell back on his butt. The rear window exploded. I panicked. Was this some kind of supernatural phenomenon? I was too confused to move. And then in the corner of my vision, I saw someone. A man I didn't know had appeared out of the shadow of one of the pillars. He was holding something strange in his hand. It looked kind of like a handgun. It was tiny, with a short barrel and kind of flat. I couldn't see any kind of silencer. I remembered him from somewhere. I felt like we'd met before. Where? I thought, but nothing came to me immediately. The man was standing there, mumbling something to himself.
つまずきを与えるこの世は忌まわしい。もちろんつまずきが起きることは避けられないが、つまずきをもたらすものこそが忌まわしいのだ。
That's upsetting.
もしお前の手か足の一つがお前をつまずかせるなら、それを切って捨てるがいい。両手両足揃っていて永遠の火に投げ入れられるよりも、それはお前にとって間違いなく幸せなのだから。
What the fuck are you talking about?
またもしお前の片方の目がお前をつまずかせるなら、それをえぐり出して捨ててしまうがいい。たとえ片目であろうとも、ヒンノムの谷の炎に投げ入れられるよりずっと幸いに違いないのだ。
Jesus Christ. The name of the... Oh my god, this is so long. The name of a valley in eastern Israel, located on the south side of an old city district of Jerusalem, also known as Gehenna. The valley was once where foul garbage and executed criminals were... It's a bad place. It's a bad place. You don't want to be there. There was an aura of intensity and madness about the man as he pointed his gun at us again.
神の与えし魂とは神の子である我々にこそ宿る。決してシリコンの上には宿らない。
I'm sorry, sir, are you from the Vatican, perchance? What the fuck? Izaki stood up, turned around, and fled in terror like a startled rabbit. Oh shit! That sound again. It was so soft and light. I couldn't even imagine that it was a gunshot. But this time, the car's windows didn't break. And it didn't blow a hole in me either. It missed? Was he too focused on Izaki? Oh my god, Mama's face! Mama's face! I mean, I'm trying not to laugh because it's like a serious thing, but look at her fucking face! But you won't be that lucky again. Move! I pushed Maho into the back seat and crawled under the driver's side. Thankfully, the engine was still running. I slammed down on the pedal without even bothering to shut the door. The sound of a powerful engine shook the underground air. The attacker flinched at the incredible noise and vibration. But the car didn't move forward. Didn't move an inch.
Shift!
ギアをドライブに入れなくてはダメよ。
Dr. Leskinen and Maho were keeping their heads low in the back seat and shouting loud enough to be heard over the engine. I took my foot off the accelerator. I glanced over at the gear shift. It was stuck next to the end.
どうすりゃいいんだ。
あなた免許は？
持ってない。
And then, through the windshield, I saw the attacker ready his gun again. He was aiming at me. The look in his eyes told me he was ready to kill without hesitation.
魂はシリコンの上には宿らない。
Oh my god. Crap. Cracks like a spiderweb appeared in the windshield. Something went past the side of my head. I felt a sharp pain. At the same time, a ringing in my ears. And all the other sounds faded away and started to disappear. I felt myself passing out. And then Maho jumped over the seat and slid into the passenger side. My mind was pulled back to reality. I slammed the door shut just as she told me to. Maho shifted from neutral to drive and leaned over the top of me to grab the wheel. Hell yeah, Maho! I slammed the accelerator so hard that for a moment the wheels were almost spinning in place. Then the car leapt forward. The attacker was getting closer. We were going to hit him. I was about to take my foot off the accelerator when Maho shouted. I gritted my teeth and did as she asked. But there was no impact. Evidently, the attacker had leapt away at the last second to avoid being crushed. But there was no time to confirm it as the car raced through the parking garage. We were going too fast, and since Maho was controlling the car from the passenger seat, she couldn't keep it going in a straight line. The car spun to the left and right, and I was almost flung out the broken window. I grabbed onto the edge of the seat as hard as I could. We headed for the exit, slamming into walls and pillars as we went. I could see an exit sign right in front of us. I pressed the brake and put my hand on top of Maho's, turning the wheel to the right. But that was the wrong thing to do. The rear tires slipped. The car spun in a circle. Oh no. And then it came to a stop. I looked back and saw Dr. Leskinen lying face up on the seat, giving me a thumbs up sign. That's honestly a very funny mental. He's so chill. I quickly put my hand up on the door and got ready to get out of the driver's seat. Then I saw an old creaky sedan rumbling toward us and shivered. It was the man from a moment ago. He was following us and moving really fast. Had it broken when we slammed into the wall? I grabbed Maho out of the passenger seat and rolled outside. Dr. Leskinen rolled out of the rear door. It was less than a second afterward that the sedan hit. If we'd been even just a little too slow, we would have been turned into mincemeat. Jesus Christ. I stood up and offered Maho a hand, then moved away from the unrecognizable wreck that used to be a car. Oh Christ! That's upsetting. Both cars were smashed together. The attacker's sedan was completely embedded into the rear half of the car we'd been driving. There was no way he could have survived. Well, oh, no, hold on. Let me get a closer. Yeah, no, I'd say that checks out. Yeah, no, he did not survive. There were no tire marks on the ground, which meant he'd slammed into us without braking. I shivered. I'd almost been killed. I was about to pull out my smartphone when the security guards heard the commotion and came running. The security guard nodded and contacted the police. My boy got grazed. I could feel a pulsing ache on the side of my head. A shot from the gun had grazed me. I hadn't felt that pain at all when I was driving. I fearfully reached up to touch it and felt blood flowing from my temple down my face. I gulped when I saw that my fingertips had turned bright red. Oh! I almost saw Mayuri when she was shot in the head. I almost saw Kurisu when I'd killed her. The images felt like they were about to come flashing back to me, and I struggled to stay standing. Maho went pale.
まずい場所だったりするのか。
そこには線側頭動脈っていうのがあって。
見せてごらん。少し触るよ。
Well, let me read about the superficial temporal artery, an artery located at one of the two end branches that splits from the external carotid artery. It runs from the neck to the top of the head, as well as between the temples and ears. It supplies blood to the skin, ears, and jaw joints. Neat. Science lessons. Dr. Leskinen looked at the wound. When he touched me, I felt more pain, but I gritted my teeth to endure it.
大丈夫。傷はそんなに深くない。
よかった。
これをお使いなさい。
すみません。
I put the handkerchief he offered to me up to my temple.
襲ってきた人、セミナーにいた人だわ。
本当か？
覚えてない？あなたが異議を出した相手よ。
That's right. It sounded like he was insulting Kurisu, so I shouted objection at him. That was the guy. Was this his way of getting back at me? Not a chance.
神の与えし魂とは神の子である我々にこそ宿る。決してシリコンの上には宿らない。
何？
銃を撃つ前に言ってたんだ。
アマデウスのことかしら。
さあ。
I could faintly hear police car sirens in the distance. The hotel security guards and staff were starting to gather.
なあ、この状況どう説明したらいいんだ？
ありのまま言うしかないわ。私たちだって何が何だか。
And then Maho's eyes went wide. She, Dr. Leskinen, and the crowd were all staring at a single point. I looked too, and almost screamed.
つまずきを
He's
与
alive?
える世がもたらすものが忌まわしい。
What the fuck is this guy made of? The man crawled out from the wreckage of the sedan, covered in blood. And then he staggered to his feet. He looked like a zombie. All his limbs, except the one holding the gun, were pointed off in impossible directions, and I could see what looked like bones sticking out from them. His stomach was torn open, and each time he crawled forward, I could see major organs covered in blood falling out from the hole. But he moved toward us as if he felt no pain at all. What the fuck? It was such an awful sight that no one could speak. The man unsteadily aimed the gun toward Dr. Leskinen. He must have been on the verge of death because his arm was flailing around too much to aim, but Dr. Leskinen's expression was pure terror, and he seemed unable to move.
もっとく魂今
教授逃げ。
A shot rang out. Fresh blood flew out from the man's head, and his body was blown away as if it had been hit by a truck. He fell to the ground, still clutching his gun. He tried to crawl forward anyway, but soon twitched and stopped moving. Jesus Christ! The crowd began to scream. The attacker had been shot? Did he shoot himself? No, that gunshot was clearly different from the last ones.
誰だ？
Who had just fired? I looked around. I could see several policemen coming from the entrance, but none of them had their guns drawn. And the crowd was nothing but security and hotel staff. I couldn't see any of them carrying a gun. So who had fired? And where'd they fired from? And the way they took the attacker's head off with a single shot. Not just anyone could do that.
何が起きてるんだよ。
Of course, no one told me. Afterward, the police took us into custody. We were taken to the police station and questioned until late into the night. The sun was almost about to rise by the time we left. The police took me home in a patrol car. Dr. Leskinen and Maho were having the police take them back to their hotel in Wako, so we split off in front of the police station. We never did find out why the man had attacked us. Jesus Christ, dude. I don't remember that. I'm gonna be honest, I don't remember that. What the fuck? She felt dizzy. That's strange, Suzuha thought. She stopped moving. Since she was in the middle of the sidewalk, the other pedestrians looked irritated as they moved around her. She took a deep breath and waited for a moment, but she still felt dizzy. Actually, she was finding it difficult to stand. Was she hallucinating? Or was the whole world starting to get blurry? All the noise of the city around her suddenly felt very far away. It was like she was diving underwater. Was this the reading Steiner ability that Uncle Ocarine had talked about? Was she starting to acquire it too? And then she realized how warm she felt. The truth hit her.
具合悪いのか。私。
She somehow the music changed. She somehow managed to stagger back to the lab. It seemed she was worse off than she thought. If she could have, she would have fallen to her knees right there. During the war and afterward, when she joined up with her dad's organization, she'd been hurt badly enough to go into a coma several times. But this was the first time something like this had happened since she'd became a time traveler.
まずいな。
She looked up to the second floor. The lights were on. She felt honestly relieved to know her dad was there. She walked up the stairs. The door was unlocked. She didn't have the energy to speak, so she silently tried to take off her shoes, and then she tripped. She fell forward.
Suzuha!
Itaru was in the room. He saw her and ran over.
大丈夫か?
She rubbed her knee and tried to stand up, but staggered again and fell into Itaru's arms.
どうしたん?
ごめん。ちょっとめまいがね。
すずさん体調悪いの?
My is here. Also Yuki, I guess.
平気ですか?
When she heard those voices, Suzuha finally realized that Yuki and Mayuri were also in the room. She'd let her guard down, she realized. Yuki seemed unconcerned by Suzuha's obvious uneasiness. She walked over with a serious expression on her face.
すずはさん、おでこを貸してください。
Yuki brushed her bangs aside and put her own forehead up against Suzuha's. How motherly. Suzuha's heart started pounding. She had distant memories of her mother doing this before.
ひどい熱、大変だわ。
Taru put his big hand up to Suzuha's cheek as well.
お、本当だ。
This is really cute. This is really cute.
風邪かな?
平気。こんなのすぐに治るから。
無理すんなって。今すぐ横になるべきだろ、ジョーコ。
Noob.
そうですよ。それは分かってる。 ちょっとだけ休ませてもらうよ。
Suzuha used the last of her energy to reach the sofa. She collapsed on top of it and closed her eyes. Calm down, she told herself.
まゆし、濡れタオル持ってくるね。
橋田さん、鈴葉さんの着替えは？
こっち。みんなこの中に。もちろん僕中を漁って、はあ、くんかとかしてないから。
くだらないこと言ってると、風邪のウイルスを伝染させてやるよ、兄さん。
Suzuha kept her eyes shut as she complained.
適当に選んで着替えさせてあげても？
頼むよ。僕じゃそういうわけにもいかないから。
はい。
As she listened to the conversation going on around her, Suzuha felt a cold towel on her forehead.
どう？悪いね、まゆ姉さん。
気にしないで。
僕ちょっと風邪薬買ってくるからしばらくやろう。
いってらっしゃい。鈴葉さん、起きられますか？お兄さんが戻ってくる前に着替えだけ済ませてしまいましょう。
Suzuha opened her eyes. Yuki was standing over her and looking down.
いや、このままでいいよ。今までもそうしてきたし。
In fact, before Suzuha became a time traveler, there were many times when she'd been unable to rest, even if she was sick. Many times she wasn't able to change clothes or even lie down. Compared to that, this was a lot nicer.
ダメです。風邪は引き始めが肝心ですよ。
She got them angry eyebrows. Also,
でもじゃありません。早く脱いで。
Yuki was a little more forceful than usual as she tried to take Suzuha's clothes off. Who are you, Fubuki? What is this? Suzuha jumped up, surprised.
わかった。やるよ。自分でやる。汗びっしょり。まゆりちゃん、乾いたタオルはある？
はい、これ。
Yuki took the towel that Mayuri had brought from the shower room and gently wiped the sweat off of Suzuha's forehead and neck.
くすぐったい。少し我慢してください。子供じゃないんだから。けど、
Suzuha shook as she was rubbed with the towel. She wasn't used to being touched, and this was the first time since she was very young that anyone had done this to her.
もういい。自分でやるってば。別に遠慮しなくても。遠慮とかじゃないから。
Suzuha grabbed the towel from Yuki, trying her best to hide herself from the gaze of the other two. She took off her clothes and wiped away the sweat. Her face felt really hot. She didn't know if it was because of the fever or not, but she was finding it difficult to think straight.
これでいい？はい、よくできました。あとはこれを着てください。
She grabbed the new pair of underwear and clothes from Yuki. Still trying to hide herself, she put them on. When she lay back down on the sofa, Yuki put a blanket on her.
まゆりちゃん、このお部屋って洗濯機はないんだっけ？
いつもそれで困るんだよ。まゆし、後でコインランドリーへ行ってくるね。
そんなことまでしてくれなくていいってば。こういう時はお互い様ですよ。
そうだよ、すずさん。
Alright, Mayuri is Mayuri, so she gets extra boobs. Boop. Boop.
お腹は空いてます？何か食べられそうですか？
Suzuha looked at Yuki, then Mayuri, and was about to mumble another refusal, but in the end she gave up and pulled the blanket up to her nose. This was really hard.
お腹はそんなに。でも薬を飲む前に食べておかないと。
おかゆなんかどうかな。
それいいね。じゃあすぐに作りますから、ちゃんと寝ていてくださいね。うん。
ただいまだお。
Taru came back from the drugstore a while later.
疲れた。
He was really out of breath. He must have gone running there and back. You're only exhausted because you never exercise, she thought to herself. But for some reason, the sight of her exhausted father made her happy, and she quickly shook her head.
ご苦労様、ダルくん。これからおかゆ作るんだ。
それを食べたら薬を飲ませてあげてください。
オキドキ。
Itaru walked over to Suzuha as he answered.
具合はどうなん？
よくない。
やっぱ疲れが溜まってたんだな。鈴葉が休んでるとこ見たことないし。
我ながら情けないよ。私、ここにいない方がいいかもしれない。
え？
どこかで気が緩んでたんだ。父さんがいて、まゆ姉さんがいて、ルミ姉さんがいて、いつの間にか母さんまで。そのせいで時々任務を忘れそうになる。なんだかこの温かい時間がいつまでも続くんじゃないかって錯覚しそうになったり、このまま戦争なんて起きないんじゃないかってふと考えてしまったり、普通の女の子と同じような暮らしに憧れてしまいそうになったり。
それのどこが悪いって言うん？
Daru spoke. His face was actually serious for once, and he was looking straight into Suzuha's eyes. It was the face of the father she knew so well, the man who was always there for her.
ここを出てどこへ行くつもりなんだよ。
それはマシンの中とか。
あんなところにずっといられるわけないだろ。
でも
あんなところに娘をずっと置いておけるわけないだろう。
とさ。
These rare glimpses of serious Daru. For a moment, Suzuha was about to cry. She squeezed the blanket as hard as she could to stop herself. And then...
おっと、なんかマジレスしちゃった。
Shit post mode! Dude. Oh, Daru, sometimes you're the worst, but sometimes you're the best. Get back to shitpost mode.
とにかく僕は可愛い子と一緒にいられるのが嬉しくて、こっそりハーハーしたりクンカクンカするのが楽しみなのだぜ。特に風で汗まみれになってる女の子は大好物です。
やめて。
There it is. There it
だ
goes.
ったら早く直すといいよ。僕にハスハスされるのが嫌だったらね。
わかったよ。
Suzuha whispered back a response, then turned away from Itaru and pulled the blanket closer.
もしかして今の僕の言葉でトラウマ解消しちゃった？好感度アップ？
バカなこと言ってると治ってからひどい目に遭わせるよ。
ブーツ履いてゴリゴリ踏んづけるとかそういう？
God damn it.
指と爪の間にいろいろ刺す。
Oh?
それだけはマジで勘弁してください。すみません。
She could smell the pleasant scent of Mayuri and Yuki's cooking from the kitchen.
なあ鈴葉、そろそろ教えてくんないかな。毎日何をしに出かけてるん？
あ、
僕にも手伝えることあるかもしんないし。
後で二人きりになったら話すよ。
あ、うん。それでもいいけど。
まゆ姉さんには聞かせられない話なんだ。
え？
Yeah, there was no way she could tell Mayuri. Three days later. Oh man, it is like it is Pavlovian, dude. Oh, that one gets me. Suzuha was still sick. Yuki came over every day with Mayuri to check on her. Because of this, Suzuha was able to eat nutritious food, and her fever had gone down. Now all that was left was to get her strength back. But still, Yuki kept telling her she needed to lie down. This meant that, for better or worse, Suzuha spent her whole day on the sofa, half asleep. Somewhere in her half-awake mind, she heard a terribly off-key tune. Oh, my heart, dude. I can't, dude. I'm okay, I swear. Since she also heard the sound of falling water, it was probably coming from the shower room.
これ何の歌だっけ？ねえ、母さん。
Suzuha had heard it when she was very young. Her mother had been singing it, just like she was now. But what exactly was the song was about, she just couldn't remember.
もう起きなきゃ。いつまでも寝てられない。
But even when she tried to open her eyes, they just wouldn't move. Her body must have needed more rest. Maybe Yuki was right, and she needed to lie down some more. She moaned and twisted slightly. When she did, the blanket fell to the floor. She didn't feel like she had the energy to pick it up. She could sense someone standing up from the desk where Itaru always used the PC. Whoever they were, they came over and put the blanket back on. Whoever could it be?
まゆ姉さんの匂い。
Weirdly, Mayuri always smelled good even when she wasn't using perfume. It was a slightly sweet smell, like a pale white flower. It was the scent that had held her all night, on that distant day in the future when she'd lost her mother. Suzuha pulled her legs inside the blanket and grabbed onto her knees, like a baby in the womb. My memories went in and out of her mind as she lay there half asleep. Dude, this shit's gonna make me fucking cry, dude. This is rough.
ママは痛い思いとかしたのかな。苦しい思いとかしたのかな。
She suddenly remembered what Kaguri had said to her after they traveled through time. 2036, the day when she'd left. At the last second, Mayuri had looked at Suzuha and Kaguri inside the time machine and smiled. It was just like the gentle smile on Suzuha's mother's face when she died protecting her daughter.
すずさん、起こしちゃった？
ううん。ちょっと前から起きてた。
何か食べる？
うん。
After she said yes, Suzuha snapped back to reality. She was getting weaker. When she realized that, she forced her sick body off the sofa. Her head shook, and she had to stop herself from falling forward, but she grabbed the back of the sofa and managed to stand up on her own 2 feet.
ああ、ダメだよ。そんな急に起きちゃ
もう平気。迷惑かけたね、まゆ姉さん。
迷惑だなんてそんなことないよ。
Mayuri went to the kitchen and turned on the burner underneath one of the pots. The sound and smells of bubbling stew filled the whole lab. Mayuri mixed it with a ladle and stopped every once in a while to taste it. She turned toward Suzuha and smiled. Oh, stew sounds so fucking good right now.
大成功だよ。
まゆ姉さんが作ったの？
ゆきさんのおかげでマユシーの腕はめきめき上達しているのです。
父さん、兄さんは？
メイクインに行ったよ。その後はバイトなんだって。
そっか。
あ、ダルくんがいないからって夜出かけようとか思ってるでしょう。ダメだよ。
平気。
平気じゃないよ。そういうこと言うとユキさんに叱ってもらっちゃうから。
私がどうかしたの
？The curtain to the bathroom opened and Yuki came out. Her skin was just a little flush.
すずさんがね、寝ていてくれないのです。
まあ、ダメですよ、鈴葉さん。あと1日、おとなしくしていること、いいですか
Suzuha's answer was less than enthusiastic, but she gave in to Yuki's glare and sat back down on the sofa. I can literally see her just wagging her finger.
はい、そのまま横になって。わかったよ。
She pouted and slumped down on the sofa, then pulled the blanket on top of her. Suzuha was capable of talking back to Big Sis Mayu, but she would never be able to talk back to Yuki.
何？
すずさんってそうしてると可愛いなーって思って。今の姿をダルくんに見せたらちょっと危ないかも。
そうだね。時々本当に兄弟なのかなって思うことあるし。
Shit, we've been made!
気持ち悪いこと言うな。あれれ、鈴葉さん、もしかして照れてます？照れてなんかいない。本当に？当たり前だろ。なんで私が。
と言いつつ照れてるすずさんってやっぱり可愛いね。
萌えだね、萌え。うるさいな。
Suzuha couldn't say anything, so she just had to turn away.
さてと、マユシーはそろそろアルバイトに行かなきゃ。
シチューは食べていかないの？
アルバイトの帰りにもう一回ここに寄るつもりなんだ。その時に食べようかと思って。
じゃあサラダか何か作っておいてあげる。一緒に食べて。
ありがとうゆきさん。楽しみにしてるね。
Mayuri told one more time that she needed to keep lying down, then left for May Queen Nyan Nyan. Yuki went to the kitchen and added a few seasonings to the stew Mayuri made, then turned off the burner.
あ、そうだ、鈴葉さん、汗かいてるでしょ。食事の前に体拭いておきましょうか。いいって言ってるじゃないか。
Yuki wanted to do stuff like that every day, and each time Suzuha frantically refused.
シャワーは無理でもちゃんときれいにしておかなくちゃ。昨日も一昨日もやったんだからいいって。1週間や2週間くらい放っておいても死ぬわけじゃないし。1週間ってそんなのダメです、ダメです。
Yuki hurried into the shower room.
さ、自分でできるから。そういうこと言う人に限っていつまでもやらないんですよね。そんなことダメです。
Yuki came back with a bowl filled with hot water and a towel. She could be stubborn when she got this way. Suzuha had learned that well over the past 3 days. Yuki was just like the mother she remembered. She slowly and uneasily stood up. Then she took off her top, trying her best not to let Yuki see her skin.
女の子同士なんだからそんなに恥ずかしがらなくても構わないだろ別に。背中だけ私が拭いてあげますね。いい、子供じゃないんだからできる。でもちゃんと拭けないと思うし。いいってば。
Yuki seemed a little shocked, but she quickly handed over the hot, wet towel.
ごめんなさい。触られるのが嫌な人もいますよね。私こそ悪かった。大きな声出したりして。お湯テーブルの上に置いておきますから。夕飯の支度しちゃいます。
Yuki walked off, dejected. Once Suzuha saw that she was focused on finishing the cooking, she slid behind the curtains in the back part of the room. She used the towel and the wash bowl to wipe herself down. She couldn't let Yuki see her body. There were scars, both old and new, all over her, and burn marks that might never heal. To her, these wounds were like medals from the vicious battles she'd survived, and she didn't care who saw them. But she didn't want to let the mother who'd given birth to her, or rather who would give birth to her, see them. Especially not the dozens of pale white marks around her breasts.
母さん。
She still remembered that nightmarish day. The bullets which had killed her mom had lost their power as they passed through her organs, but still managed to dig into Suzuha's skin. And when they did, they were covered in her mother's blood and flesh. The scars would probably never heal completely. To Suzuha, they were her mother's grave. She shook her head to try and get the nightmare out of her mind. She took her bottoms off too, and then wiped herself clean all the way down to her toes. Then she put on a new pair of underwear. It was only after she finished putting on her newly cleaned clothes that she felt human again. Showers really do feel that way sometimes. It's like, ah, yes, I am human again. When she came back, Yuki was putting bowls filled with stew and salad onto the table. God, that sounds so fucking good. Their eyes met, and an awkward silence filled the room.
できました。
Yuki broke the silence first.
ありがとう。どのくらい食べますか？いや、いいよ。それくらいは私がやる。
Suzuha put just enough stew and salad for her meal onto her own plate, then made a plate for Yuki as well.
すみません。いや、こっちこそ食事の用意なんてさせて悪い。具合が悪い時はお互い様と言ったはずですよ。食べ終わったらちゃんと薬も飲んでくださいね。
The two sat on the sofa and filled their mouths with stew and salad. The stew had a mild, gentle flavor. It felt like something Mayuri would make.
ずいぶん上達したでしょ、まゆりちゃん。缶詰をただ温めただけとかそういうわけじゃないんですよ。大したもんだね。鈴葉さんもやってみません？教えますよ。私はいいよ。柄じゃないし。そんなことないと思いますけど。まあいつかね。いつかっていう人は結局最後までやらないんですよ。 それさっきも似たようなこと言ってた。そうでしたっけ？うん。
And then the conversation ceased for a time. Suzuha slurped down her stew. She had terrible manners and tried to come up with something to talk about. This time it was Suzuha's turn to break the silence. And after what she just remembered, she couldn't bear to be silent around Yuki.
さっきの歌だけどさ、あれなんだっけ？歌？シャワールームでほら。もしかして歌ってました？私、恥ずかしい。下手なのに歌うの好きだからつい口ずさんじゃうんですよね。別に上手い下手なんて気にしなくていいと思うけど、何の歌だったか思い出せなくてさ。実は私もなんですよ。印象的なところだけ覚えてるというか、子供の頃に流行った教育番組の歌か何かだとは思うんですけど。役に立てなくてすみません。鈴葉さんはいつ頃あの歌を？私も子供の時かな。母さんがよく歌ってくれたよ。優しそうな人ですもんね、鈴葉さんのお母さん。
Conversation flowed so naturally that she didn't think about how she responded. Oh. Neat. A second later, she realized what she'd said and then stared at her mother.
どうしました？
Why is mother in quotation marks?
私の母さん。どういうこと？どういうことって、おとといお見かけしまして。は？
Suzuha, please! Calm down! Get your fucking story straight!
ですから、おとといここを訪ねていらしたんです。そんなバカな。お母さんが来たらおかしいんですか？だって。
Oh my god, Suzuha, please. She can be really dumb sometimes. I mean, I guess her mom is a weak spot, so there was no way she could say her mother was right in front of her. Confused, she fell silent. Yuki, for her part, must have come to some conclusion about the reason for Suzuha's reaction. She started to stammer and fidget.
ごめんなさい。私何も知らなくて、もしかしてお母さんとの間に何か？いや、喧嘩をして家出してるとかそういうわけじゃ。今にして思えばなんか変ですよね。お母さんたら橋田さんには着替えや差し入れを持ってきていたのに、鈴葉さんには何も。と兄さんに着替え差し入れ？はい。
Suzuha thought as hard as she could and finally reached an answer.
そうか。
The answer. Suzuha, please. Yuki was talking about Hashida Itaru's mother. In other words, Suzuha's grandmother, who she'd never seen except in pictures. But since she'd told Yuki that she was Itaru's sister, it was natural that she'd make the wrong assumption.
どうしました？なんでもない。
If Itaru had said even a word to her about it, this wouldn't have happened. How stupid. She'd have to give him a lecture later. To be fair, you're not helping your own case. While Suzuha was thinking about the talking to her dad was going to get, Yuki had already started to sympathize with her imagined plight.
鈴葉さん、私いつでも相談に乗りますからね。何で も話してくださいね。
For some reason, her eyes were starting to well up.
ありがとう。
Suzuha didn't know how to react to this, but she felt a little embarrassed.
やっぱり優しいんだな、母さんは。
Just like she told Itaru, this place was too comfortable. She was starting to imagine that this life would continue forever. But sending this brief, happy time period beyond the horizon of the world line was supposed to be Suzuha's mission. If she didn't, this world would be destroyed. All right, it's a little early. I'm gonna call it a day. I'm starting to get like a headache. It's my brain is like extra bad today. So I'm gonna call it a day. I meant to do this at the beginning, but I forgot because, you know, brain. It begins. I have made the decision. I don't know, decision, what? My dream, the illusory goal of 50 followers has now become a mission. I shall now commence Operation Rising Tempest. All right, that's it. I'm gonna go now. Have a wonderful day, night, whatever the hizzity heck. I should save the game first. That's a thing I do. Saving the game. Saving the game. Did I save it? I did. Overwritten. Bye. That's the wrong screen.